All right, we're going to start with the rapid fire round just to break the ice. You can only answer with one word or one sentence. And if there's something you don't want to answer, you can just say pass. The first question is, at what age do you want to retire?
Um, I have no intention of retiring anytime soon.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
About an hour,
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
most of them.
Favorite color?
Blue.
What time of day are you most inspired?
Um, the evening,
How many hours of sleep do you need?
about 5 or 6.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened?
Las Vegas.
How do you relax?
Oh, lots of things. Music, poker, cricket, lots of things.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Not coffee. I'm a big tea drinker. Probably 5 or 6.
A habit of yours that you hate?
Bite my nails.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Be nice to everyone.
Your favorite Netflix show?
Wednesday's good.
Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Night owl.
One word description of your leadership style?
Collaborative.
Top priority in your daily schedule?
Um, Getting up probably.
Ideal vacation spot for relaxation?
For relaxation, Sri Lanka.
Key factor for maintaining a work-life balance?
Loving what you do.
All right, that's the end of the rapid fire round. I'll go on to the bigger questions, which you can answer with as much time and ease as you like. If you could go back in time and hand one piece of today's emerging technology to yourself at AKQA, what would it be and what mischief would you get up to with it?
It would have to be generative AI, simply because you could do almost anything with it, and it'd actually be harder to stay out of mischief, I think, with generative AI, back in my old days than it would be to create it.
And if you now had a chance to replace one of your colleagues with an AI, which colleague would go first?
I couldn't possibly. AI is decades away from replacing them.
No, wait.
They might see it.
What was the experience like being the jury at the Cannes Lions 2017?
It was amazing, actually. I was very lucky. I had a brilliant jury, and it was a very uh, the discussions were fantastic. Um, Cannes has a reputation a little bit for juries kind of arguing well into the early hours and has stalemates and things. I didn't have any of that. Had a really good jury, a really good time. It was fascinating being behind the scenes, and being president obviously was a bit of an honor, and doing the speech, etc. So it was great actually seeing a huge span of work from around the world. Whereas at AKQA, I was AKQA at the time, you're very funneled on AKQA's work and actually getting that opportunity to see that outwork work, but then discuss it with a brilliant jury. Yeah, it was definitely a week to remember.
All right. So the next question is, how do you see AI transforming the creative process in advertising and marketing today?
So it already is transforming a lot, and it's such a foundational technology. I mean, AI itself has seeped into all our lives without you really seeing it. It's in so many of the apps and things that you use. What we see now is generative AI doing the legwork in the middle, basically. So there's a lot of perception, I think, of generative AI that it does more. Like someone could go in who isn't a creative or an artist and generate films and images and things on their own, and the technology will just do it. The technology is mind blowing. Only a handful of years ago, you wouldn't have believed what you see, but still, the human ingenuity, the spark at the beginning, and then crucially, the experience to know what good looks like at the end. So I'll give you an example. I might use Google VO3, which is a top of the range video generator at the moment. And I've worked with creative people for a long, long time. And I'm good with AI. I could generate a scene of a video there, and it would probably be okay. And most people would think it was quite good. But we work with a director, and that director would probably look at it and pull it apart for framing and pacing and lighting and everything else, because I'm not a writer, I'm not a director, I'm not a cinematographer, I'm not a sound designer. So I don't really understand what good looks like in those things. So you've got to have something to aim at, and you've got to know when you've got it, basically. And the middle bit, you can do a lot of that legwork productions things with AI. But it's about AI being part of the production process or wrapping a production process around it. So what's happening in my work environment right now at WPP, which obviously WPP is a huge organization. There are creative agencies, media agencies, all kinds of things, 100,000 people or more, um, is creating a platform that has the tools in the platform. It's called WPP Open. It's got all the major generative AI models in it with a user interface that means that everybody in the network has got access to use these tools equally and safely. But it's the people who are using the tools, not the other way around. And I would expect that to continue. It's very hard to look ahead. This space is changing so dramatically and so quickly. But right now and for the foreseeable future, I see it doing a lot of the legwork in the middle, basically, but with people wrapped around it.
But as you say, even if someone is not, a sound director or like a director, etc., they can still go ahead and make something which might not be good, but it is something. And to what extent is the internet itself going to get flooded with some things? And how is it that going to make it hard to stand out with something good?
Yeah, it's a great question, because actually that's, I would say that is already happening. I mean, the channels themselves have fragmented and fractionalized over so many years. There's so many of them. There are everything is a channel for advertising, and AI, as you say, democratizes a lot of the creative process to people who wouldn't traditionally have done it. And maybe in some cases, a lot of cases, people are just going to create these things and kind of churn them out. And yes, that means there will be a lot of noise. And yes, that increases the urgency, if you like, for brilliant, talented, creative people to create cut through. And that's nothing new, really. Cut through was talked about when I got into the industry 25 years ago, and having ideas that stand out, things that engage people differently, not just eyeballs, but actual engagement with what you're doing, which is very different to just having a lot of things, at a very low level flash before your eyes while you're scrolling through something. I think that human element actually becomes even more important in a world where everybody is producing content of that type. And therefore the creative industry and the professionals within it are relied upon even more.
Yeah, I guess the complaint I have would probably also be a complaint people had when the printing press was invented and everybody can write.
It is definitely a situation that comes up. I mean, the scale of it now is the differentiator. But every time something new comes up, I mean, I was on a panel today that was titled "Is it the end of advertising as we know it?" Actually, as a creative technologist, we are uh, researching, implementing, applying the latest things all the time. So it's the end of advertising as I know it, roughly every 5 years or so. It's very different. AI, it creates it on a bigger scale, but I think the same thing largely applies.
So, what are the key skills then that creative professionals should develop now to stay relevant in an AI creative industry that is changing so fast?
Yeah, and I think actually experimenting and playing with the models is vital. At WPP, we encourage everyone really to get into the platform open that I talked about, to get in and use the tools, because it's, as with any tools, if you want to stay and advance in your career, you need to be using and understanding how the latest tools do the job. There is a specific aspect, I think, of AI, which is really interesting, which is agents. Creating agents or having agents that become part of your team. So an agent is an AI model which is trained with a lot of very specialist information, who then kind of works as part of your team. So if you were doing a project, a campaign, a job, and that job was to do with, I don't know, cooking, then you could actually have an expert cook in your team as part of your team while you're doing that work. It's a terrible example, but you get what I mean. And that's unique. Basically, you've always had to go out and find a person who is very busy, and so agents kind of democratize certain specialist knowledge and bring them into your team, and you can create those. So I think understanding where agents can fit into your team scenarios and how to build teams around them, and also how to interact with the models, how to get the best out of them, playing with different models and understanding what the differences are between them. That's really where I think just jumping in. It's not really about, reading and watching videos and doing coursework. It's actually about getting your hands dirty with these things and using them and experimenting.
And to what extent does the fact that every generation costs money, even if it is a practice generation, influence this entire dynamic?
It's definitely a concern. I mean, we need to it's something that we would look at the companies who are creating the models, and we want those energy costs to come down without a shadow of a doubt. It's very interesting that I think even saying thank you to a model and getting a response out of it, it takes up energy, and it's something we have to be conscious of, knowing how big, energy, climate, and the rest of it is. It's definitely a concern, and it's an area I think of innovation that we would be hoping is fast tracked.
Mhm. So, what does your typical day at WPP look like? You wake up in the morning and then.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is a typical day. I'm very lucky and have been really through my career as a creative technologist to be working with people who are quite diverse in terms of their experience. If you had 25 creative technologists in a room, no two of them would be the same in terms of their skills and their passions and their experience. And I'm surrounded by these people at WPP. So I could be talking to someone about AI. I could be talking to someone about VR or virtual production or robots, and that could happen at any time of any day. And being central at WPP, being part of the hub with all of the agencies and dealing with all of the agencies means that I never really have any idea what problem is going to be thrown at me at any point. Um, there's usually we have our apprenticeship of creative technology apprenticeship at WPP, which is a huge part of our transforming into the future by bringing talented artists and creative people in and then teaching them new skills with the latest technology, the latest models. Having those people around the network, I'm generally dealing with those people quite a lot of the time. So it's incredibly varied. And to be honest, it's that variety that keeps me passionate about what I do.
Tell me more about the apprenticeship program. How does it work? Who are you looking for?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm privileged to work on this with two amazing people at WPP, Perry Nightingale and Kat Sullivan. And Kat Sullivan was lecturing at NYU when she joined WPP to help put this together. And the idea was that you have a lot of work that is where the concept for that work has come up within agencies or by creative technologists who might be like a bit of a lone wolf within an agency. But then the actual development of that work happens outside. We wanted really to rebuild creative technology capability within WPP, um, but to find people who are creative, who are artists first and foremost, but who have a passion for technology, which is what I think a creative technologist is a creative person with a passion for technology. And then be able, because of the partnerships we have at WPP with the likes of Google and Meta and Microsoft, to teach them the very latest work and build like an army of these people. And partly that helps us because you talked about the transformation of the future with generative AI. Well, there's a term which I've become familiar with fairly recently of people being M-shaped, and M-shaped people have a foundation of knowledge that they can apply in lots of different areas. Hence, this kind of M-shaped term. I'd heard of people being T-shaped or whatever from recruitment and whatever. But M-shaped people really is kind of what creative technologists are. So I think that that AI being a foundational technology that gets applied in lots of different areas means that this is a bit of a boom time from a creative technology point of view, and these people have amazing futures in front of them, and hopefully we can manifest that at WPP.
And so, what advice would you give to creatives who are just starting to experiment with AI tools today?
Really, it's got to be about experimenting and diving in. That's the way that you learn. It's really the way that I think most people learn with almost anything. But learning the tools, understanding, I think the where the expertise beyond your own expertise needs to come to the table, because if you don't, y- in that sense of knowing what good looks like, if you're trying to create for a medium and there's an aspect of that medium that you're not familiar with, then it's hard to know whether what you've got is of the standard that you need it to be. So understanding kind of where the edges are, because where the edges are is where you and your team members come in. But definitely experimenting, getting in and playing with these things, and then staying up with the latest models as they come out, which they are going to come out thick and fast, right? And you come up with a workflow, a pipeline now that feels like it's best in class, and the new model comes out, and you've got to create a new one. Staying on top of that, really, but doing it by actually jumping into the sandpit and playing with it.
Could you share some insights from your experience working on high profile projects like the hybrid metaverse concert for Bastille or the IBM Watson powered campaigns?
Yeah, well, the Watson one, that feels like a lifetime ago. That's about 2017, which feels like another era. But I think in each case, um, innovation is a word that gets used a lot in a lot of different contexts. And like many words, I think it becomes a word that's easy to throw around. And for me, using a technology for the thing that the technology was invented for is good. It's advanced, but it's not really innovating, in as much as the innovation is in the technology rather than in the application. So, actually, as a creative technologist and working with a bunch of creative technologists, finding innovative ways to apply the technology is the really interesting part of the job. And in both of the two that you've mentioned, the Watson project with IBM Watson, one of the first instances of that being commercially available, and it was used as a kind of a semi-autonomous Twitter responder for a brand seeking out conversations, offering help if that help is effective, giving it. That was 2017. With Bastille at WPP, which was virtual production using a big screen, Unreal Engine to create environments, filming that with the band, creating VR experiences out of it, was in taking the tools, which are themselves innovative, but coming up with applications of the tool that show where they can go. And those things are inspiring to work on. Generally speaking, when I'm involved in those things, I'm involved with a whole lot of other people who are inspiring to work with. It's definitely not, an individual with a vision and then everybody else doing, what they've been told to do. It's a bunch of people all bringing lots of different views and visions to the table, and that really kind of gets your mind working, basically. So those are high points for sure.
So, looking back at the creative technologist journey that you've personally had, is there something that you would do differently that you would also advise others to?
The thing I would do differently if I could do it again would be to do it earlier. To be honest, I didn't really know about the industry, and actually, a lot of people don't. Creative technology is not, I think, as clearly defined um, as lots of other disciplines are. That means that people know what they're looking for and they know where they found them. Recruiters know what they're talking about. All these kinds of things. It's quite muddy, and so I didn't know this field existed. Technology for me has been the thing that's enabled me to be creative. These hands have no craft skills. So I got into it when I was about 28, and so I was doing other things until I was 28, and I would take that time and put it here. That's not something I can tell everybody else to do. So what I would do for everybody else really is, if you are a creative person, a designer, an artist in any form, um, I would just have a look at the landscape of technologies um, that are out there. That's not just AI. There's a lot of other things, a lot of other tools, um, and see how they impact what you're doing, what you could do, how big the world becomes if you start working with some of these tools. And if that interests you, if that becomes something that's a passion for you, then the marketing industry is a fantastic place to be. Um, in marketing, we don't we're quite happy to work with the very, very earliest alpha versions of technology, because for us, it's about putting something out there that people haven't seen before. And you can't wait 5 years for version 3 when it's stable to do that. So, as a creative technologist in marketing, you're constantly working with the very, very earliest forms of technologies. And that's a very exciting place to be. And as a creative, that presents a lot of opportunities to do new things. So, I think if you're an artist, if you're a creative person, I would not shun the world of technology, but look and see what it offers. And then look and see what career it offers. Because my experience, my life experience doing this, is something I absolutely cherish. And I love the idea that lots of other people could have the same.
So, but I guess technology moves in exponential leaps, and it will continue moving faster and faster and faster. To what extent then does luck play a role in hitting the right thing at the right time?
Huge. I wish more people would acknowledge the role of good fortune. And because I remember back in the day, when I don't know if you remember the lean startup, when that was a thing, that was a book, it's a very successful, popular book. And you would hear talks constantly by people who had followed this lean startup process and who'd done really well. And you'd hear from those people. And what you wouldn't hear from was the 99.9% of other people who'd followed the same process and who nothing had happened for. Because somewhere on these people's journey, they met the right person at the right time, who had the right need, who said the right thing, or they overheard something and whatever, and you catch lightning in a bottle. And I don't think it's a weakness to acknowledge the role of good fortune. Actually, there's an element of humility in that. It keeps you grounded. I think that when I got into this industry, I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time. I got at AKQA very early, and AKQA, what a fantastic place that was to begin a career and to learn and grow. Um, there were probably lots of other people who could have done it. So I do think that good fortune plays a big role. The thing you have to do though is recognize it when you've had it, because that's what allows you to make the most of it and develop with it. And I think people are surrounded by tiny opportunities all the time, and some people are aware of those and can grab one and run with it. And you've been lucky enough to get the opportunity, but you've then done something with it. Basically. So I think that the acknowledgement of luck and good fortune is actually an important thing.
It reminds me of the T.S. Eliot phrase, signs taken for wonders. You might have a sign, but if you don't know it means something, it's of no use to you.
I didn't know that quote, but I like it. I'm a fan now.
Yeah. All right. So the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this?
I would be an entirely different person altogether. And I know that because I started doing it late, because I started doing it when I was 28. There is a version of me at like 28 and under, and there's a version of me post 28. And before 28, I had a job, lovely people. It was a job. And basically, and I worked in order to be able to do the things I wanted to do. Post 28, the work was the thing that I wanted to do, and I kind of built my life around it. It was a passion for me, and it allowed me to take things that were in my imagination and make them real because of the technology, which I couldn't do before. So yeah, I think I kind of have an idea of the person I would have grown to be, and hopefully I'd have been okay, but I certainly wouldn't have, um I don't think I'd have been able to offer as much to others as I am now in the position with WPP and everything else, and that's a real value to me. So I would probably have had some hobby or passion or something that I'd have poured myself into, but my working day, I probably would have struggled a little bit, to be honest.
So for people looking to make the change you made at 28, what should they do? Is your apprenticeship program option? Is it like how do they get about it?
It can be. The apprenticeship program, I'd have to say, we've done 3 cohorts now, basically. Each cohort's 15, 16 people. So there's roughly 50 people who've come into it now. In year 1, Perry and Kat interviewed 30 people to take 15 people. I would say actually that 12 of those 15 were women, which is amazing because haven't seen enough of that in creative technology. In year 2, it was about 150 to take 15, and in year 3, it was nearly 300 to take 15. So it's not the easiest thing to get into. But I think if you want a career as a creative technologist, the apprenticeship is an amazing accelerator to a career, but it's not the only one. But I think there are some good courses at some of the London universities, at art schools and things, Central St Martin's. There are others, and that people have gone to. You know, there are um, there are a number of courses. D&AD, I think, run a. I'm trying to remember what it's called, Night Shift, something like that. I could have that name wrong, but who train people up. But getting a foot in the door is the thing, and it may take a while, and it's a competitive market out there. And creative technology, as I say, is not the clearest and most well understood, but there's real value in it. I think, emphasizes that value. And what I would say is that if you can manage to get it either placed into a course, signed up for something, or you get a foot in the door with an agency, you meet someone in a meetup. There are creative technology meetups that happen. Um, you've really then got to kick the door down and get in. And it's the passion and energy that you have that allows you to do that. And everybody I've met who's made a career in creative technology has done it by doing something else and then taking this enormous left turn. Basically, that's certainly true of Perry, who I mentioned. It's true of me, true of a bunch of others. So yeah, I think it's be persistent, keep looking around, and keep up to date with the tools and technologies. If you are a creative person, then develop a portfolio, have things to show. You get in front of someone for 30 seconds, have something to say and to show, make an impression. It's probably quite tiring to keep doing that, but you just have to stick at it. And if you get a foot in the door, basically, kick it down.
It's interesting that creativity is what is required to go past the gatekeepers.
100%, 100%. Yep, absolutely. It's the a lot of people I think have seen creative technologists and think of them as technologists because we tend to talk about the technology. But the reason that you're able to do the things with the technology that creative technologists do is because they're creative, and the two really do come together. I am Andy Hood. I'm Vice President for Emerging Technologies at WPP. Catch me on the Technologist of the Month show.